Welcome to Entertainment Unleashed. In this video, we will see the movie, Moonfall, a 2022 sci-fi, adventure, thriller movie. In the beginning, we see Brian Harper, a NASA astronaut on a space shuttle with his partner Marcus, along with Jacinda Fowler. The lights start flickering and Brian sees a mysterious figure approaching the space shuttle. It hit them hard and knocks Brian and Marcus. Brian is still connected to his safety cable. Unfortunately, Marcus is not. He is drifting away. Brian tries to save him but loses his grip. He is pulled towards the shuttle, which is spinning very fast. He sees the mysterious creature again. He gets in the shuttle and finds Joe unconscious. He stabilizes the shuttle and notices the creature landing on the surface of the moon. It starts to drill. The scene shifts to Harper's house. His son is watching the news about Brian's wrongful termination suit against NASA. Brian claims that a mysterious creature did all the damage, but NASA does not believe him. Brian was once celebrated as a hero for landing the shuttle Endeavour despite a complete meltdown of all the electronics on board. Now held responsible for the accident. 10 years later at the University of California, where Casey Houseman sneaks into Professor Arrowwood's office and calls Alma radio telescope to get the moon's orbital data records. He quickly makes his escape. Later, while working at a dine, he receives the moon's orbital data. He is shocked to know that the orbital radius of the moon is decreasing. He calls NASA but is not taken seriously. Joe is informed about the sudden change in the moon's orbit. They also find a huge hole in the moon's crust. KC prints the orbital data of the moon and rushes to meet Brian. Upon meeting KC, Brian thinks that he is mad and calls guards on him. KC throws the orbital data towards Brian. At home, Brian is called by his ex-wife. She informs him that their son is getting arrested. Brian is shocked. The next morning at the court, the judge announces Sonny to be held as an adult as he turned 18 a few weeks ago. Brian tries to explain the situation but the judge gets angry and puts Sonny at flight risk and denies the bail. He is sent to the jail for the weekend. KC is motivated by his mother to make the world listen to him. At NASA they are informed of the moon entering the elliptical orbit, meaning it will rotate around the Earth 3 times before crashing into it. Suddenly an anonymous personality released the news about the moon to the press. Brian sees the news, and the director of NASA lies and tells the press that all this is fake. Tom informs Brenda that they should go to Colorado. She is concerned about Sonny. A joint mission between NASA and the European space agencies is sending astronauts to the moon to gather information. On the other hand, the entire human civilization is panicking and looting stores for supplies. Brian sees an article about the moon being a megastructure, powered by a star. He remembers KC and his message. The astronauts reach the moon. They send a drone into the hole. KC tells Brian that being a megastructure there must be something wrong with the power source of the moon. If they can rectify it, the moon will get back in its orbit. The drone travels 25 kilometers in the moon's crust but stops afterward. It suddenly starts coming back up with unbelievable speed. The moon also starts correcting its orbit. The mysterious creature comes out of the hole and engulfs the space shuttle. It kills the astronauts very brutally. High tides start washing cities away. Brian saves KC from drowning. Back at NASA they conclude that the mysterious creature was drawn by the electrical signal of the space capsule, and when it came out, the moon surprisingly started correcting its orbit, but when it returned back to the moon started falling again. The director resigns and using his clearance Joe finds Brian Harper's head camera video which shows the mysterious creature attacking the space shuttle 10 years ago. She is approached by Holdenfield, who tells her that long ago when Apollo 11 lost connection from mission control for 2 minutes, it actually didn't lose connection. The mission control cut the live broadcast for the world because Apollo 11 saw strange pulsating lights emanating from beneath the crust of the moon. The history that was taught was a cover-up. And Brian Harper was telling the truth from the beginning. In a meeting with the council, the military declares this as a military mission and tells NASA to stay out of this. Joe calls Doug and asks about it. He tells that the mission is to drop an EMP on the moon which should probably kill the creature. Joe sends a helicopter to pick up Brian. Brian and KC both are taken to NASA. There Joe explains the whole situation to them. Brian points out that he was right all those years ago. Joe shows him what happened to the International Space Mission. and how the moon was correcting itself until the creature went back into the moon. The creature senses technology and Bryn is the only person to land a shuttle without any power. Brian agrees, but in return, he wants Sunny out of the prison. They all get to the museum to get Endeavour the space shuttle for another mission. The military brings the EMP to kill the creature. They explain the procedure to arm the device to Brian. Sunny is also rescued from the prison. Brian explains the plan of how they will lure the creature out with a pod that will be holding the EMP. Brian meets Sunny and is glad that he is okay. Sunny is scared that his father is taking a bomb into space. Suddenly there is an earthquake and the shuttle loses one engine out of 3. The mission is called off. All the flight crew and support staff leave the area. KC suddenly reports that the weight of the moon has increased and that they can launch with 2 engines only when the moon is directly above them. Joe joins Brian and KC is appointed as the chief engineer on board. Sunny, Maloney, are sent to Colorado. As the Endeavour was about to launch, a huge gravity wave approaches them. They are in a race of time. The waves start hitting them. They rise from the water and launch towards the moon. Sunny also sees this and that the water is coming their way. They quickly get in the car and drives in front of the water. And then gets on the road to Colorado. The Endeavour gets to the refueling station. Sunny is stopped by some people asking for help, but they loot them and take their car. The Endeavour propels its way to the moon and reaches the hole. Brian takes the lander above to hole and places to pod there. The creature comes out and doesn't take the bait. It circles around the pod and then heads toward the Endeavour. It starts to engulf the Endeavour. Brian, seeing this, breaks Casey's phone. The creature stops and returns back to the moon. Joe tells that the military will fire nukes at the moon in less than 2 hours. They need to kill the creature before it, because nuking the moon will kill all life forms on Earth. Sunny reaches Tom's place in Colorado, where they are greeted by Tom. Sunny tells how they will be safe with Doug at the military compound. They all heads there. Brian docks the pod back to the lander and decides to go after the creature on the moon. Upon reaching inside the moon, Brian turns on the electronics on board. We see the creature leaving the star. The moon is a megastructure and it's incredible. As they move forward, they see the creature coming toward them. As the creature was about to hit them, the lander automatically started moving. All are confused. The creature starts destroying the lander. But suddenly it is pulled into a chamber by a mysterious force. And the door closes after them. They all are unconscious and something scans them. Sunny and the others are trapped because of rocks falling from the sky. Sunny calls Doug and tells him their situation. Doug tells them to take shelter as the military is about to launch counterattacks on the moon. Sunny tells him about Brian and Joe being up there. Doug is surprised as he thought Joe stayed behind at the NASA station. Mallory tells that he has full confidence in his mommy and that she will save them. Doug is scared. Tom points to a mountain pass as it is a safe shelter from the meteorites. They all heads towards it. Joe and KC wake up and find the air breathable and Brian missing. They began searching for Brian. On the other hand, Brian wakes up and finds a hologram of Sunny. It tells him that billions of years ago there were humans on a different planet and they were extraordinarily advanced. They expanded to other parts of the space by building habitats that can survive in space. They created a perfect world with peace and harmony. There was no war or social disturbance. They also created a perfect computer software or an AI which helped them in their daily lives. Until one day when it turned against them. It destroyed the whole planet and eliminated every biological life form. In the blink of extension, the ancestors built planetary structures operated by 9 artificial intelligence and fueled by a dwarf star. These were made so that on a suitable planet it can incubate new life from the DNA of the ancestors. But only one of them was deployed in time, the moon. Before the last of the ancestors were killed by the AI. The moon entered the solar system and created the planet Earth. It revolved around it until it was suitable for life. Then it seeded it with the DNA, hence creating the human race. It also tells Brian that they have to take the creature away from the core of the moon so that the moon can return to its orbit, saving the Earth and the human civilization. Brian is founded by Joe and KC. He tells them the plan. They find that the moon's AI repaired their lander and upgraded their EMP. As soon they switch on the electronic, the creature leaves the core. They lure it into the gate and then quickly fly away. The creature follows them. As Tom and his family were heading towards the mountain pass, his daughter's oxygen tank is empty. He gives her his and sacrificed himself. Brian uses the moon's defense system to damage the creature. The creature gets fired upon, and when he crashes into many defense ships, a huge explosion is there and the landers loses the visual of the creature. Back on Earth, the military is ready to launch nukes on the moon, but Doug refuses to give his key. He is sure that Joe will save them. Sunny and the others get to the mountain pass but find Tom missing. Sunny decides to go in search of Tom but gets thrown away by a rock. Michelle goes on Sunny's search and finds him under a tree. The moon has entered the atmosphere and huge pieces of rock are raining from the skies, destroying cities, infrastructure, and everything in its path. Brian takes the lander into the hole and waits for the creature to follow them. Brian plans to stay behind in the pod, and when the creature will come for them, he will detonate the EMP, killing the creature and doing no harm to the moon's core, so that the moon can return to its orbit. KC, seeing the seriousness of the situation, locks himself in the pod and tells Brian that he wants to stay behind. He has waited his whole life to be someone, and that he wants this. He detaches the pod. As the creature close in, KC arms the bomb. The creature engulfs the pod and KC detonates the bomb. The shock wave pushes the lander. Seeing the gravitational pull of the moon, Sunny is able to get free and gets into the shelter. The lander also gets out of the moon, and the moon is now getting its power back. It starts getting into its orbit. Few minutes later, Brian wakes up and finds the world in one piece. They are rescued and reunited with their family. They all acknowledge Tom's bravery and his contribution in keeping them safe. Brian tells them how KC saved the world. Back on the moon, KC's consciousness is awakened and he finds his mom's image there. His consciousness was scanned and stored by the moon. He is a part of the moon now. The end.